Hello friends, welcome to another video lesson. This one's about rhyme schemes and poetry, and that's okay if you are not familiar with that because I've never taught it before. I've never taught it to anybody before, so this is the first time. But by the end of this video, you should be ready to write a poem about something that you miss or that you long for. And by long for, I mean something that like you miss it so much you can feel it in your stomach. For a chosen rhyme scheme. So in order for you to do that, let's make sure you know what a rhyme scheme is. So before we talk about that, poems, like any piece of writing, but especially poems, can have very little structure, which is a lot of the poetry that you've written so far has very little structure to it. Or it can have lots of structure. So it's kind of like if you're stuck at home in quarantine and you don't have a lot of structure in your day, you might be wandering around your house and you might be watching a lot of Netflix because you're not sure where you're going. Or you could wake up at the same time every day and have like an hourly schedule that you've planned out. And this is like a poem. This type of day is like a poem with lots of structure. And a rhyme scheme gives a poem a certain amount of structure because of the pattern that it rhymes with, that the poet chooses. So a poet chooses a pattern and then they follow either before or in editing how to make the ends of the lines rhyme. And these patterns are then labeled with the alphabet or different letters. So I'm going to show you how to label a rhyme scheme, and so you can also come up with your own and label your own. So our first example is a simple one and probably a familiar one. I do not like green eggs and ham. I do not like them. Sam, I am. So the end of both these lines end with the sound am. And it's the first sound in the poem, so we're going to label it with the first letter A. And then we switch to a different sound, oat, boat, and goat here. And every time you switch sounds, you need to add a new letter. So now we have B and B. So we have AA, BB. And if it follows in order, it's probably either going to go back to AA, which I know that you can see what's coming up. It would either go next to AA or CC. That would make sense, unless it's a more complicated pattern, which this one is not. So then we go to the new sound, ouse, house, and mouse. New sound, new letter, CC. If we were to go back to am or back to o, we would go back to labeling it AA or BB because each sound has an assigned letter. Let's look at another more complicated example. This is Sonnet 23 by Shakespeare, pretty popular sonnet. I've made this chart to make it easy for you to see the rhyme pattern as we go through the last words. So I'll read the first 4 lines, which is a quatrain, by the way. I'll talk about that in a second. As an unperfect actor on the stage who with his fear is put besides his part, or some fierce thing replete with too much rage, whose strength's abundance weakens his own heart. Okay, so we have 2 sounds here. The first sound, which starts with, we're going to start by labeling it A, is age with the word stage. Then we move to part, new sound, new letter. Then we go back to age with the word rage. So we're going to label it A, and we go back to the sound art with the word heart. So right now we have AB, AB. Abob, abob. Let's read a couple more lines. Or actually, I'm just going to document the last word of each line. So then we have say, right, decay, might. All right. New sound, even though it follows a similar pattern, new sound. So we need C for the sound A, and I'm going to label it C every time I hear the sound A. D for the sound ite in the word right. Then back to, we have the sound A again, so we're going to label it with a, think about it, Dora the Explorer sound. What letter? It's going to be C. And then back to D. I'm going to do a couple more lines. Then we have eloquence, so the sound ence, breast, recompense. I'm typing with one hand, you guys, because I'm holding my mic, so you should be impressed. And the last word for this one is actually expressed. It's just cut down over there. Express. So eloquence, ence, new sound, new letter, E, breast, est, new sound, new letter, F, ence, rhymes with eloquence, recompense. So that's going to be our E. And expressed, breast, F. Easy. What I was going to say about these is they're in groups. The rhymes are in groups of 4. So they alternate between different sounds in patterns of 4. And we call this a, let me label this other one, quatrain. Like quad means 4, so a quatrain is a group of 4 in poetry. Cool. That was a longer example. Here's a shorter one. This one's from Mid-Stairs by Virginia Hamilton Adair. It's kind of funny that the Mid-Stair rhymes with her last name because we're talking about rhyme. I've started this chart. I just want you to check me, and then we'll fill out the last 2 lines. And here on this turning of the stair between passion and doubt, I pause and say a double prayer, one for you and one for you, and so they cancel out. So it's kind of quippy and quick. Our first sound is air in the word stair. A, doubt with the sound out. B, prayer goes back to stair, so we're going to use A again, but then we have a random unrhyming line. So we're going to say C for this part with the word you. Out goes back to doubt, so we have B again. So the pattern here is a little bit, this is only part of the poem, but if it were to keep going, what would it be? A, B, A, C, B. If it were to follow the pattern, it's going to go back to A, then B again, and it'll start all over. So A, B, A, C, B, B, A, B, A, C, B, if the poem were to keep going. But it doesn't, so we're not sure. The pattern could have changed. So you can make your pattern as simple or as complicated as you want. It just has to be clear. Last one. This one's pretty easy. I've already documented all the last words here. Silent, Silent Night by William Blake. Silent, silent night, quench the holy light of thy torches bright, for possessed of day, thousand spirits stray that sweet joys betray. Why should joys be sweet, used with deceit, nor with sorrows meet, but an honest joy does itself destroy for a harlot coy. Yeah, you don't want to mess with a coy harlot. So this one's a pretty easy pattern to identify. It's just in groups of 3 here instead of groups of 4 like we had earlier. And they all follow the same ending rhyme scheme. So night, light, bright, A, new sound, day, A, stray, betray, B. Then we'd have what next? C, 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 and then we'd end with these oi sounds with a D. So these are just in groups of 3. I'm gonna highlight that. And when it's in groups of 3, they're called a triad. Like try. So before we had before we had 4, which was a quatrain. Sorry, again, trying to do this one-handed. Now we have 3, triad. So here's your assignment. You're going to submit a poem on forms about something that you miss or long for. The form is going to ask you for the rhyme scheme that you've picked, so you're going to need to know probably ahead of time and do some drafting. You could even do this chart of words that you want to use and connect together and submit the chart. You're going to submit the poem, and then I'm going to ask you for a little bit of reflection, but these are the 2 main things that I'm going to grade you off of. And the poem needs to show considerable thought to both the rhyme and the theme, or the message of the poem, what the poem is about. Please avoid superficial thematic content if you can, especially in a time where you're probably missing a lot of things. Let me know if you have any questions, and this is going to be due on Monday, April 27th, 9 in the morning, and I'll be on probably a live either Thursday or Friday if you have any questions about your poem or you want to workshop it with me. Thanks for watching. Tune in next time.